This is KGW News at Sunrise.
And we are kicking off our show this morning with team coverage. We have a reporter up in the West Hills, and Drive 8 is heading south on I-5 towards Salem.
As of right now, there are no school delays to report, no closures to report. Of course, if we get any of that sort of information, we will put that scrolling at the bottom of your screen. So, Rod, let's talk about the conditions outside right now.
Yeah, so we have the winter weather advisory posted from the Weather Service through 9 a.m. And the headline there is, things could change. Maybe it's raining at your place right now, but that could change. So we're keeping a close eye on things. Let's show you what is happening at this exact moment. It's just wet in downtown Portland, and we're at 37 degrees. You know, yesterday we talked about a lot of scenarios, and one of them was the fact that there was reason to believe that the atmosphere would not get as cold this morning. We could stay in the mid to upper 30s and be primarily just wet at the lowest elevations. And so far, that's exactly what's happening. So in green, from Salmon Creek area all the way down through Portland and Salem, down through Albany, that's primarily just rain. Again, the white tones you get in the snow. We've had a mix of rain and snow even up at 1,000 feet in the West Hills. Now, temperatures are at 32 degrees as low as about 700 feet. I've been checking the temps on Bull Mountain down in Tigard, the West Hills. Sandy's been about 32 degrees, but the radar's been showing even Sandy's kind of a wet snow mix at times back and forth. Here are the ground temperatures. 32 at 1,000 feet in Happy Valley, but otherwise we're all above freezing. 35 in Hillsboro, 34 Beaverton, 38 in downtown Portland, 37 in Salem. So I have no reports of icy conditions at low elevations, and for the most part, it's just been rain. 37 PDX. Moving forward, we're still unstable because the overall batch of air is so cold. So we could have hail, rain, or even a snowburst again today. 48 degrees at 5 p.m. And now we are going to go live to Drive 8.
Our photographer Nick Bieber is out on the roads this morning. He is on I-5 South heading down towards Salem. The rain is coming down pretty good. You know, Rod talked about it. You see the road spray there and the semis on the interstate. Always a tricky situation, but right now it's just wet, not white.
All right, as long as we're talking about the roads, let's bring Don Hamilton with ODOT back into the show this morning. We gave Don the day off yesterday, but Monday, Don, we were in your home, and we're going to do that again this morning. Not a whole lot to talk about right now, but can you give us any updates on conditions that maybe we haven't heard about yet?
Well, we're looking okay out there. We did have a couple of rain and kind of snow bursts last night, late last night, 9 o'clock or so, right around Sylvan and some of the upper elevations where we had some hail and snow, kind of unexpected things, but they weren't very widespread and were gone pretty quick. Conditions are pretty good right around the Portland area up there, but then again, up in the Coast Range and in the Cascades, of course, things are different, but that's the way it always is around here when it gets cold out.
Anything else that you want travelers to know this morning?
Well, anybody that's traveling up into the mountains had really need to be careful. But of course, when it's this wet out too, we always need to be careful out there. Temperatures are low, so we always need to watch out when temperatures are low because we might hit patches of cold and ice out there too. That's always possible. All
right, Don Hamilton with ODOT. If anything changes, we'll get back with you and pass it along to our viewers. Thank you so much for your time. Well, we saw what the snow did to trees in the metro area, but what about the rows and rows of fruit trees blooming in Oregon's orchards? Take a look at this. Snow covers the cherry blossoms at Draper Girls Country Farm, which is just outside of Hood River. They're dealing with an early season bloom plus this late season snow. Farmers say that combination is threatening about a quarter of their cherry crop. Usually these fans keep frost from settling onto those tender blossoms, but they're risky to use in these particular conditions. That puts orchard owners in a really tough spot.
Just worry, just plain worry, because it's just typically, again, we don't get this kind of weather during blossom time. We never get snow.
We also stopped by Hood River Cherry Company. Each season it produces 4.5 million pounds of fruit. Managers there say they'll be watching the weather very closely for the next few days, and they'll be trying to stay positive.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other headlines from around the region this morning. And we start this segment of the show in southern Oregon, where a huge fuel fire broke out in Medford overnight, right near downtown. Medford Fire says crews are working to contain runoff from fuel silos. They also called in heavy foam trucks from the airport nearby to assist. And they're asking people to avoid this area right now. In fact, they've evacuated anyone who lives within a half-mile of that fire. Last night, after hours of searching the area, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office indicated that one of the 3 suspects involved in an armed robbery near Gresham was still on the loose. So this all started around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon when deputies responded to a robbery call at the Columbia Gorge Outlets in Troutdale. 3 suspects got away in a car, headed west on I-84. Deputies chased after them, and at one point, one of the suspects allegedly shot at one of the deputies' cars. Those suspects eventually crashed into another car near Northeast Sandy and 162nd. Police arrested 2 of the suspects on the spot, but they say the third one ran off. So she's described as a white female, last seen wearing black pants and a gray hooded sweatshirt. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. And heading into Easter weekend, health officials say they're starting to see another uptick in COVID cases. OHSU says for the last 2 months, case numbers have been on a downward trend, but again, that is starting to change. It could have something to do with the BA2 subvariant, which is now the dominant strain of COVID in both Oregon and Washington. But OHSU doesn't expect the next wave of cases to be as serious as past spikes. And that's a look at some of this morning's local headlines.
Well, so far, winter and spring have brought a good amount of snow to the Cascades, and that is great news for our snowpack. But there really is a big difference between a few solid storms and erasing a drought that has been building for a lot longer. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri explains why.
Seeing the snow measured in feet the last couple of days is obviously a good thing for the state snowpack. But despite the gains we've seen over the last couple of days, much of the state is still under a drought. In fact, 90% of the state of Oregon is under some kind of drought right now. The one thing the Oregon Cascades have been seeing plenty of the last couple of weeks is snow, and a lot of it. Since Sunday, Timberline Lodge has had close to 4 feet of snow. But considering how up and down our snowfall has been this winter and spring, most of the state is still at a deficit for the year.
Last year at this date, we were 144% of that median value. So still, it's not as much as we had last year. The problem we encountered last year was the rapid melt-off, which started essentially second week of April.
This map shows snowpack across the state. As you can see, some areas are above average, but most are running below normal. Scott Oviatt is a hydrologist with Natural Resources Conservation Service. He says 93% of the state is under a drought. The only area that was able to get out of a drought is the metro area and this northwest pocket of the state. He says we don't want to see our gains this week disappear too quickly.
The snowpack is rather dense, which means it's right near that melting point or melting underneath. So it's going to take those cooler temperatures to maintain it for a longer period.
He says the longer we can keep things from thawing, the better our summers could be from wildfires.
If we have a rapid drying and rapid heating, for instance, last year we had the record high temperatures in late June. That would lead to more of a scenario of wildfires.
The one thing hydrologists like Scott Oviatt are going to be watching very closely over the next couple of weeks is just how warm things could get in the higher elevations and down in the valley too. At Government Camp, Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
All right, Rod Hill is back in the studio with us now. Rod, the big number that jumped out to me when you first came on just a few minutes ago, 37 degrees downtown. Yeah. That is not enough to cause a 2-hour school delay if kids were hoping to have that again this morning.
No, keep in mind, a lot of our schools have bus routes that go up into the hills, and the snow level seems to be between 500 and 1,000 feet this morning. We just talked about the mountains. Here's our Timberline camera. It's snowing up there. Let's see what temperature is. 18 degrees. That's cold. I keep saying it's January up on the mountain. Another day with some hefty snow totals. I just checked the Coast Range pass cameras. Chris McGinnis is coming up shortly with more traffic, but so far the Coast Range highways don't look bad, although it is 32 degrees on the Sunset Highway up through 1,400 feet. So here's my money graphic of the morning, if you will. So far, snow has been between 500 and 1,000 feet, but even this is not uniform. There are pockets where it has been raining up above 500 feet and even at 1,000 feet. In places like Sandy and the top of the West Hills, Radar Times has been showing it's a wet mix. There's enough moisture out there that if it would become all snow at those higher elevations, you would end up with 3 to 4 inches of snow, but that could end up being spotty. All right, it's mostly rain on low elevations. We talked about this yesterday. There was reason to believe that the lower elevations down downtown Salem, Portland, and Vancouver would have difficulty getting cold, and we might just have a wet morning. So far, that's exactly how it's playing out. Weather advisories posted until 9 a.m., and the headline here is things could change. It's still certainly in the realm of possibility that we could get colder and have some snow change all the way down to Portland or Salem. But so far, radar's been consistent, showing it's mainly rain in the flats of the I-5 corridor. That's all the green that you see right there. And then you've got kind of a wet mix in these purple salmon colors in some of the hills. There's the outside of Beaverton. We've got some rain in downtown Portland right now. Oregon City, you get up into the hills a little bit. The gorge, it's all rain out through Troutdale. Sandy, as I mentioned, where temperatures are about 32. Right now showing 33. It's kind of a wet mix. 34 in Beaverton. We're in the 30s. Again, things could change, but right now it's pretty just wet unless you really live up in a high hill. And even that, some of the upper elevations are showing wet conditions. 37 Portland, Salem, 39 degrees out in the Dalles currently. Futurecast does show at 9:30 this morning. It's just rain up and down I-5. Again, the weather advisory from the Weather Service is posted until 9 a.m. So between now and then, just check conditions before you leave because things could be changing. This does show possibly some snow on the west side at that time. So we'll see if that comes true. But mainly this afternoon plays out with temperatures in the 40s. If we get enough sun, we could have some hail and some hefty downpours, and we had the snow burst yesterday. That could happen again. Here we are at 10 p.m. with scattered stuff in the forecast. Okay, 48 today. Tomorrow morning, we'll look for the chance of maybe a mix of rain and snow, but primarily wet again, 50 the high. Friday, a much drier day, 55, just a few showers. Rain picks up Saturday. Easter Sunday still looks great, and then we have our next weather system bringing rain on Monday. Chris, my job is fairly easy this morning. How was your job, sir?
Easier, yeah, than it could have been, certainly. Here's a live look right now at I-5 at Capitol Highway. This is one of our higher ODOT cameras in the metro area, up at about 620 feet, and you can see traffic getting along just fine there. And I think what we're looking at here on this tree is probably just the lighting from the camera. I doubt that that's any significant snow or ice buildup there at this point, so I'm happy to at least share that with you. We'll switch gears. We'll take you behind door number 3 if we can to the Sylvan Hill, and this is one of the highest local freeway cameras that we have at 750 feet. I don't see any snowflakes on here, and certainly the road looks like it's doing just fine there, so that's good news as well. Freeways are just wet heading into downtown Portland for now. I can tell you that Camas, Woodland, and Malala River school districts are all running on 2-hour delays though right now. So we wanted to pass that along to you, and we will continue to update that ticker at the bottom of your screen as well with that. Guys, for right now, the roads heading into downtown Portland look like they're in pretty good shape. No major crashes, no unexpected delays either.